Awesome, awesome. So, I guess we want to talk about was that Saturday?
Saturday morning?
Yeah.
Saturday midday.
Were you able to see the police report, read the narrative?
Not all the way.
Okay.
I did try to look at a few of the body cam footage real quick.
Okay. Is your plan to look through the rest of that body cam footage?
Yeah, because I understand you made a complaint with Sergeant Snowmer. Am I right or wrong?
I don't know if I made a complaint yet, but on the front end, at a minimum, what I wanted to do, because, last time we met out here, almost same place, we were talking about another officer, and I gave him accommodation unexpectedly, and I contemplated a complaint, but I determined ultimately I didn't make a complaint against that officer, I don't think. I just asked you to look some things over and make your own judgment. On the Sergeant Schwimmer thing, I just want to state on the front end that I think some kind of stress-related counseling, not even punitive at this point in time. Maybe he's recovered since Saturday, but there's a point where you're going to see in the video that, I was asking him to calm down. I took a step back. I felt fear, and fear for my own safety and for my rights. And ultimately, safety was used as kind of a secondhand thought to kick me off that property in part, which was in and of itself bogus. But I put the narrative through and do you have a body cam so you can view this later as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't know what all you wanted. Or
No, I appreciate that, because then you don't have to take notes yet.
Yes.
But I put this through AI and told it to give me an unbiased truth, not to consider my side or the other side, but unbiased.
Yeah.
And so I know I wrote it down somewhere. The response it gave me is that the police report is highly subjective, procedurally flawed, and one-sided. And I just put out a video from way back that was the whole thesis of it was a one-sided police report and investigation by a different officer, I think. I think it was Corporal Bauer at the time. This isn't about Corporal Bauer, it's about this particular incident, but there's a little bit of a pattern for Rich Gages with regard to getting one-sided reports against them. And this is me asking AI to be unbiased, so this isn't me saying, hey, AI, tell me it's a one-sided report. And then it goes into detail of why it's giving that response. And just as an intelligent person, it makes sense to me. And I'm hoping that we can resolve those things in part through supplemental reports. And I'll just give you one high-level example is, I can't tell from the police report whether he talked to people on site or not. He did tell me on the video, you should see where he says 3 people complained. If those are calling complaints or somebody that makes a public request for this police report knows nothing about witness testimony. I was a witness that day, and my testimony is critical to reflecting the truth of what ought to be in a professional, procedurally correct, and unbiased police report.
So I will comment this. There was someone that complained. I'm trying to figure out who. And trying to go through, because Officer Stone, Liberty, Goddard was up there on that working the detail, and on Sergeant or Officer Stone had a video where a lady dropping stuff off stopped them about feeling fear or something. I didn't get it to watch it because she just came because I just found it. So I don't know if that's the lady that is the complainant saying that you're flipping people off, and she thought she was flipping her off. She was afraid to get out of the car. I don't know. But I haven't seen her name and stuff, but it's in the video to where they need to add that to that report, if they did complain and what the complaint was, so I would need them to, and Stone talked to her, so when Stone comes back to work, needs to provide that information,
The report seems to reflect what you're saying, that I was flipping, he's saying everybody off. But the thing is how people feel and fear or not in this regard is irrelevant to law. And we can settle that later on with me and Paccio can settle that type of stuff. But there is an opportunity. There's one offer on the table, and there's a second offer I have in mind that would also resolve this and keep us from going down that path and other paths that I don't think anybody wants to go down. But there seemed to be an agreement that day that I was flipping officers off, not people. and that there was a misunderstanding by people on his side. He seemed to be understood that other people were interpreting that as I was flipping them off, when I clearly articulated I was flipping off the PD, and I didn't mention it at the time, but I was flipping off Delhi vehicles for the most part.
Like Delhi police vehicles or Delhi?
No, Delhi, a couple of them were like construction trucks.
Well, okay, like
one of them was Skylar Miller's,
Okay.
has county plates, but it's probably a Delhi vehicle, the red one, maroonish.
Yeah, it's their administration, like the one.
Yeah, none of them had handicap stickers, all in the handicap parking. I don't see any exemption in the law for anything that they've listed as an excuse. What I've come to determine, I appreciate your feedback if I'm right or wrong, is that Officer Schlomer had discretion, and he used his discretion as an officer for the good of the community to not enforce any kind of handicap law on them.
On that part of it,
Yeah.
because I will tell you this, the building was closed for the day, and it was open for that event. That the officers that are working the event, there's 4 of them, set that lot up to get all that crowd through zigzag to the dumpsters so they can unload and leave without clogging Neeb, because in the past we've had Neeb Road backed up all the way to Foley Road and all the way up past the fire house. So they try and set it up, and they need that whole entire lot, so they shut the whole lot out. Skylar, the township, other people parked there, was like I think a dump truck, all part of the township, the employees working there, and they were told by the police to park there because they're out of the way, because they got to get cars in and out. And there's no permitted parking. The building's not open because if a handicapped person came up there, they weren't going to be permitted to park there anyway, because the event is bring your stuff in, we help you unload it, and then leave, and they keep for that period from 8:30 to like 1, I think it ended. And that was the whole gist of that. So like nobody's permitted to go to the senior center because it's closed. Nobody else is permitted to really park on the lot because they need every space to zigzag those cars to keep the road clear.
Well, number one is
So it was done by design.
It was a public event open to the public. Nothing you just described to me do I see anywhere in law that exempts them to allow them to park there. The other thing I'll say is that there were cars parked there that actually had handicap stickers. So there were handicap vehicles using handicap parking spots. If they were full or limited, more of those type people showed up, there wouldn't be parking for them, because it wasn't just what was being parked in. There were also construction vehicles that were taking up construction
part of the
parking spots while it was there.
The event.
No cones or anything like that. And if a senior went around and needed to rest for a minute, under Ohio law, they had every right to take a handicap parking spot with their handicap sticker and take a rest.
Wouldn't be up there unless they were going to the event.
Yeah, they went to the event, they went through, they dropped off their stuff, they're on their way out, and they're like, I need to rest.
Well, they can pull off to the side there and rest a minute.
And the handicap parking
They're not
that's
really
being
allow them to be parking.
that's being taken.
They're going to allow them to
So
be off the
it's your
side.
case that what you articulated is an excuse that's allowed by law to allow people to.
I can look up the law to see if there's a section of law that covers that a police officer giving the right to allow someone to park in a certain spot, because there is
handicap.
There is certain laws about even the roadway of certain events of county workers can block or stop a roadway or stop the work and be in the roadway when normally you're not supposed to. I can see if it qualifies for a handicap, but I know that day everything was closed off, that nobody should be allowed to park there, period.
Well, I just gave a scenario where someone should and would be allowed to park there. An old person with
they wouldn't
handicap
need to park
sticker.
There. They could pull off to the side. They let them pull off the side, and they have
somebody that's missing their legs from the war. And they go through and they dump it out, and all of a sudden their legs are hurting because they're missing their legs.
Well,
or
a lot
thoughts
of them
are hurting.
they help them unload their cars. They didn't really
and
unload
they want to pull over to handicap, and the first 5 handicap spots are all
going to be taken because the building's closed. The handicap spots are for people to access to get into the building safe and easy.
No, they're for handicapped people when they're needed, not just to get in the building.
Well,
even when the building's
closed,
there's
closed so they can access the building easier versus parking way out.
At the end of waiting in a long line, you're handicapped, and you need to get out and stretch your legs ASAP because they're really painful. And straight ahead,
there wasn't much parking left in general.
And straight ahead are 5 parking spots, all handicapped, all taken by public vehicles using privilege instead of law to take them.
Because they had it set up in order to get all the cars through. And they had dumpsters blocking half the lot because it was part of the deal. They have the dumpsters come in, and the people for a cleanup day, so they clean their yards up. It's a free event for township residents to clean their lot, their yards and stuff, and throw them away. So half the lot was blocked by dumpsters.
I appreciate it if you're saying you look into it. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
The report Are you aware that I left under threat of arrest that day? Okay, when you see that part of the video, if you just take a mental note of it or somehow ever you note that, I left under threat of arrest that day. I said, are you asking me to leave under threat of arrest? He said yes. This is on top of his demeanor that was threatening and caused fear in me. And the way that our conversation started out, and I may not get the wording exact, but the context is going to be valid, is I said something like, how you doing? And he said, what do you need? I said, how you doing? He said, what do you need? And it became a little volley like that until I submitted. He won the little whatever it was. And I said, we have handicap, we have people illegally handicapped parking here. And so at some point in there, he may have answered me. I'm not 100% sure I won. He said, I'm having a really bad day, something along those lines. So off the get-go, I'm getting attitude that is I'm becoming an officer, a sergeant, certainly. And then that escalated to where, and I want to present his demeanor and his aggressiveness as a violation of de-escalation policy, because he's trained to de-escalate, and he's the one creating more tension while using safety as an excuse, in part to get me off property. Now, the safety aside, I went to the side sidewalk at first, that where you can't claim it's a safety issue, and he said you still got to go off property. So at that point, the safety concern was gone. It was a 100% rights violation issue. And I stated some case, well, let me just go on. I want to try and be respectful as I can every time.
You're right.
So I want to say, assuming what I'm saying is true, but after you watch a video and find out what I'm saying is true, you're going to see this report type is listed as non-offensive. So my question would be is if the report is a non-offensive, then on what legal grounds did the sergeant have to threaten me with arrest to get me off property if it's a non-offensive report? I'd also like to get what specific ORC code he's talking about violating me on. I think he said public disturbance at one point, not why I was on that property necessarily, but I asked him, I said, what you're telling me is if I flip off an officer and a citizen walks between us and feels like they're getting flipped off, that you would arrest me on the traditional public sidewalk? I'm asking him. And he said, arrest or ticket you. And I said, so just to be clear, if I'm flipping an officer off across the road from me straight up and a car drives by and they feel that I was flipping them off and maybe even felt in fear, I don't know if I said that at the time, arrest or ticket. That's clear violation. I gave the case law why that's a violation. I encourage you to speak with the lawyer and he can let you know whether you all think that's a violation or not. I want to take a second just on public records requests too, because I'm getting some requests on those body cams at different section of it. And I just want to let you know that the direction of the courts, a lot of people recognize them, that what government did to oppress our right to our public records of cameras was wrong. And Ohio's trying to correct it, but they were so slow that we now have a federal committee in Congress that's putting together a law that is going to correct the moral and legal wrong that the state of Ohio has done, and going to start forcing states to do the right thing, so that in a situation like this where Rich Gages wants body cam, thank God Rich Gages records things, because if he doesn't, then he's up here thinking, hey, do I got to put up $400 so when I make my complaints and stuff I got to get it exact, or do I wait until the lawsuit so it's part of discovery and y'all got to pay for it when I win the case? It's just a disgrace. And I just want to point out that the direction, because one of the things I'd be asking for as the second option would get all the body cam for free. We let it all go, in addition to let's get Sergeant Slomer any help that he needs, in the short term. Doesn't have to be punitive. Those two things alone makes all this go away.
So, real quick to go back to the
Yes,
video.
sir.
You want a quote for all the video, because you want all the video, but
Yep.
But then you said Sergeant Slomer's video of when he talked with you and threw you off the lot.
I itemized it in different areas like
And
that.
then whoever talked to the complainant.
One for each complainant, one for when he talked to Skylar, and I think there's maybe one for the other workers or whatever. And I point out again that according to Corporal Laverty's feedback, which I first want to say, I'm real close to given Corporal Laverty an apology in public, which would be one of the first times I do that in public. I do feel that while I had every right to do what I did with him, that he made some good points, and if I could do it again and choose outside and third perspective, I would have treated him with more respect. But the treatment I gave him was a reflection of my grievances really towards Skylar Miller at the time. And he got the blunt of what Skylar Miller riled up in me, and he probably really shouldn't have got the blunt of that, and I may make a public apology. But in his own words, one of the workers up there accused me of harassment. It clearly wasn't harassment. This is a pattern of government workers. Eventually, I think it starts making a case of coercion out of my rights, because that's what they're trying to do, trying to take my rights away by saying that, and then, yep, so that's well, if you want to comment on that, I'll let you comment. Otherwise, I'll just move on.
I wasn't clear in that conversation. You had a conversation with Laverty.
Yep.
I'll have to look at the body cam to see, but I didn't know you had an interaction with Laverty. I knew you had an interaction with Sergeant Slomer. I didn't know you had an interaction with Laverty.
It was mostly friendly until, I got riled up.
Was this after Sergeant Slomer's whole interaction?
The first one was before Sergeant. I think it is a mix of the two, really. Yeah, I talked to him before and after. But before Sergeant Slomer, he had given me permission to walk around. Just don't interfere with the business. So I had permission to be there. I was a member of the press. I was also protesting when I went back the second time. First time I didn't protest. Yep, so
you're basically venting your frustration with Sergeant Slomer through...
Not Sergeant Slomer. Corporal Laverty, I have my own gripes about it.
Oh, okay.
He was probably in the right. He wouldn't take my initial complaint, and I was professional at the time. I said, I need contact PD. He said, yeah. That's about the end of it. But then when I came back later, and he went and had time to go talk to Skylar about a complaint and or the other workers about a complaint, and the fact that my complaint I thought was under his detail was handicap parking in the area he has detail on, that I thought maybe he should have taken my complaint. But it was that combined with his responses on the surface level sounded contradictory, because he said it's not about Skylar, and then I said, but you talked to Skylar, and he said, yeah, so you talked to Skylar, but it's not about Skylar. I'm interpreting that a lot different in the heat of the moment than I am today. I understand his words are a little twisted up. He wasn't maybe even meaning what I was interpreting, whatever it was, you know what I mean? And there were a couple things like that, because at one point he said, there's a complaint of harassment, but it wasn't harassment. And that kind of didn't make sense in my mind. So I'm already heated up from the Skylar thing. And so the other thing, I don't know if I mentioned this, but I'd like to get the specific ORC code all the way down to the letter, all the way down to the final piece of what he was threatening me with. And because on the traditional public sidewalk for flipping off an officer that a citizen misinterpreted, he said arrest or disorderly. Now with
he would be referring to, I guess, as disorderly conduct.
Yep, disorderly. I'd like to get it down to the exact letter code though. My understanding up there is that I was trespassed that day. I'd like that to be reflected in this report. I don't think you can put trespass and say it's a non-offensive report when you enforce a trespass under threat of arrest and call it a report with integrity. I guess you could do it.
And just some in there. I didn't see his report. What you got?
Yeah, it doesn't say anything about trespass. And it doesn't say anything about how it was an order under threat of arrest or anything like that. And just to verify it, I verified with, I believe, Sergeant Goddard. I said, so I'm trespassed. This is all from memory. So I'm trespassed from the property. How long? And he said, yes. He said, I'll check, I think, till the end of the event. Or he said, till the end of the event. I said, can you check? Because I don't want to get it wrong.
Right. You don't want to go back tomorrow or the next day.
So he checked, came back, trespassed till the end of the event, which was 1 or 2:30. I think 1, then they got extra time, whatever.
I think it was till 1.
And this doesn't even reflect a trespass. And that starts suggesting other things, Rich. It starts suggesting cover up. Not only unprofessional and all that stuff, but it's just hard for me to swallow.
He should have documented that.
They enforced law against me under threat of arrest. These go into deeper legal issues that I can't articulate right now, that I've done some research on. But to enforce law and then not document that and call it non-offensive when under threat of arrest they enforced what they're calling an offense, An offense which is very similar to one that Jeff checked with the prosecutor on, and the last word back is the prosecutor said they're not gonna prosecute those types of cases. This exact same thing, he's enforcing feelings. There's case law, they misinterpreted my finger, was never pointed at the people. It was always intended for the officers and the vehicles and Delhi at large, and I had every right to do it. A flip of the finger is nothing less than speech. And it's very subjective. When AI says this is subjective, a human like me with my intelligence will look at it and say, yes, offensive speech is subjective. Now there may be large populations, 80% subjectively think fuck you is offensive. 80% will believe the word, or maybe 20% believe the word taxation is offensive. And I'm one of those 20%, so you understand what I'm saying there.
Yeah, I do.
How long would you want me to give you before I was able to come back up for supplements, or do you want to just get back to me when they're ready?
Being that there's multiple different things, and some of the stuff I can't answer with Skylar and that, but what I can answer, just give me a couple days.
Okay.
I'll get a hold of you.
That sounds good.
My only issue is I got training Wednesday, so I won't be here all Wednesday or Friday. So I'll try and look into it tomorrow and Thursday. So I'm gonna say at least I should have some of the answers by Thursday easily.
Awesome.
You know,
I'll check back next week. We kind of had that weekly cycle on the other one. I'll give you
Monday's
that same
a holiday.
respect. Okay.
I'm not here till Tuesday.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Is that Memorial Day?
Yeah.
I used to know these things better when I was working, when I was getting a day off work. As opposed to just having the sergeant and whoever else you feel on site or whatever do a supplement, I'd appreciate it while you're watching the video if you took some notes and created your own supplement that I could get a copy of. I'm just asking for that. If you can't do it, I understand.
I wasn't going to create something that I don't need to, but I would in the sense if there's, I mean, I'm confused on one end. Are you making a complaint of Sergeant Slomer for his behavior? Because I feel like I'm looking into that matter. If I'm looking at that matter, I'm going to do the citizen complaint route and go from there and see where it goes.
What, and document it?
Yes.
That's the only way it gets documented?
That's where I would document him and his attitude. If he had attitude,
In that
and he
case, then
shouldn't,
it sounds like I do need to make it a complaint then.
then it's a, you know, that was my impression based on the email that you're upset of how he treated you.
I'm
Right off the bat,
I'm in fear of how he treated
So
me. It's,
I'm going to create a citizen complaint looking at the whole matter of, it goes off of, off the top of my head, it's just the whole being rude, unprofessional, I guess you'd
not
say.
rude, professional, threatening. I was threatened, and rude, unprofessional, and threatening.
I mean, it's
And I've considered, whether that's subjective or not is its own conversation, but I've considered requesting him not responding to any of my calls if possible, but I'm not there yet. But that's where I am thinking, because look at the video and you make your own determination. Clearly having a bad day, admitted on the front end, clearly hostile at a minimum, and even for, I think, folks like you, you're going to understand the threatening as well. That said, you know, this is a note on that. Sergeant caused fear. I stepped back. I told him to calm down. I clearly articulated.
So you're trying to de-escalate the situation.
I clearly articulated at that point in time, I am, because it's a different interaction that I've had with any other officer in my history in Delhi. I've never had a fear like that with an officer. I was thinking in the heat of the moment, I was thinking, what am I going to do if he goes hands on, and I don't mean just like handcuffs on. I mean like he looked like he was on the edge of maybe striking me. And I know that sounds radical and stuff, and I'm not saying he was going to strike me. I'm just letting you know what I felt based on what you'll be able to see that's going to be undisputable. Well, you'd be looking at me, I guess. What you're going to hear that'll be undisputable will be, I guess, your interpretation of whether that's hostile and threatening or not. And to keep in mind, I was kicked off property in part because of words they used that wasn't even hostile. It was like some other word, adjective that was less than hostile, and they used it to kick me off the L10 Center with a bunch of other stuff.
If I send you a request, will you send me your review field of your first encounter with Sergeant Slover?
Can we include it with the police report?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because what'll happen is I'm going to take that report and I generate my citizen complaint based off that day, that incident.
Okay.
So the report number, for your sake, would be that come through that report. I mean, I could do technically, I guess I do a separate citizen complaint, but it's resulted from that incident. So
oh, you want
to?
You want to? I'm sorry. You want to report on my complaint on Sergeant Schlemmer?
Yes.
Okay. I want you to do your stuff first. I don't want my stuff to bias in any way what you all are doing. And I wanted to find out if I could also do something similar, not necessarily a complaint against Sergeant Schlemmer, but a complaint about the whole process and documenting why it's a rights violation and all that and what happened that day as a first-hand witness in support of my own case in defense of what happened that day. And I'd like to do it independent of what you all put together. I'd like you all to do yours first. I'll do mine at the same time, but I want you...
So you want me to do a whole investigation on the incident, or...?
Yeah, I think that would be good too. Yeah. I've given you all notice that it's likely I'm going to sue you.
Well, I seen that it went to Jeff and Skylar.
Yep.
And all, you know.
And I would think that alone would be worthy of some kind of investigation. I imagine the attorney's maybe doing his own investigation.
Well, that's where Jeff needs
maybe
to
y'all just wait until the suit gets filed before you worry.
I would do Sergeant Schlemmer's complaint.
Okay.
And look at...
Yeah, I'll put that in writing.
You know, his day, that incident. And the only thing I was going to say is, if I sent you a link to the video when you first encountered him, where he said he's having a bad day and how he was and how he was agitated, I'll have his side of the video, but your perspective, your side of it.
Yeah, that'll probably be more in the next week or two.
Huh?
That'd be in the next week or two.
Okay.
Most likely. I'm going to have to give it more thought.
Okay.
Because...
Well, I'd tell you what.
I'd probably want a subpoena for my video at this time.
Okay.
Because for any video I have, and the only reason is because the general rule of thumb for lawyers, it's like the don't talk to police when you get pulled over, is don't share your video till the lawsuit's over. And so that's where that's at.
That's fine. That's fine.
And I will point out, while safety was used, I already said the excuse to kick me off in part. The other reason alone would have kicked me off, and that the only safety risk that I really myself encountered that day was the sergeant. And that's all I really wanted to articulate today. I did want to thank you. I don't know if I did that on the front end, because I don't know. In fact, I do know that not all PDs do this. And you're not only meeting with me, but you're meeting me with maybe 2 days notice, maybe 2 hours notice. I'm not sure which one, depending on the context. You're always great to me. I already posted the last video. I don't know that you even care, but I think it made you look good. I think it made us look good. We're working together. You know, I have other videos where I chalked sellouts work here, and, you know, I'm with Lieutenant, other guy, Meyer. So, you know, I try to keep it honest and keep it real. And I just want to say, I think today that I feel that we're heading in the right direction.
Okay.
Part of why I want to hold off on submitting some of the things that we're talking about me submitting with Schlemmer and things like that is because if you all just accept 1 or 2 deals I have on the table, one is give me all the body cam for free and tell me you're going to have a compassionate heart on helping Schlemmer get over whatever he was going through that day. Or 2 is in writing, and I'm just going to guess from memory from what I remember, is going to be an apology from Schlemmer, an apology from Skylar, assurance that y'all aren't going to violate my rights going forward anymore, and I think that's about it. But now I think we have OSHA violations that were happening up there that day as well. So, you know, this week that's my assignment is, you know, I got it. And on the OSHA stuff, I can't do all this research, Rich. It's too much. So I'm like, on the OSHA stuff, I'm just going to submit the video and let them tell me. But on all these other things that are ethical violations and tracking down who I can report these different things to, I've done a lot of research on it. And I know there often isn't a lot of bite, and there's a lot of protection for folks, but sometimes those things bite and people don't like that ethics complaint on their record for a lifetime, especially lawyers from what I hear. And I gotta tell you, I understand y'all do some rough work, and we got an auditor who used to have hundreds of thousands of views, and he took his website down. Some of the reason they say is because he got PTSD fighting against government. Now he's going against court systems, against judges and stuff, very powerful people. But I do know in your field that the PTSD, you know, especially you get some folks coming out of the armed services and stuff, so they have those stresses. And you may hear me sometimes say I have anxiety, PTSD and stuff like that, and it's all to the individual, but never do I want to compare what I go through to what you all go through. I think you were up there when you saw me have a breakdown due to my anxiety, and you know, I haven't seen that in an officer, but you know, I'm slow to pull the trigger on the most serious of police offenses, complaints against them, because I try to have some compassion on that, especially if I see recovery, or especially if I can relate to it. Like, I don't know what happened to Schloemer, and I'll just say, you know, I have no idea, but could have been a death in the family, could be divorce, you know, could be he's moving, you know, those are maybe the 3 highest stress things they say in life. Could be all 3 together, I don't know, but we all have bad days, and you know, I just hate to get people in trouble, and I wonder if you all struggle with that too, where like you got to take a thief who was on hard times and put him in jail, and yeah, you got to do it for the society, but there's still your experience to the heartache that some of the hardest people face. But that, I want to give you a handshake today and say thanks, Lieutenant, and I'll reach out next week if I don't hear from you before then.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. And by the way, while I'm thinking of it, I get them all confused, but is it Sergeant Goddard? A+, man. I've had to get like 3 times in a row, I'm giving them A+.
All right, I'll let him know.
Thank you, he already knows.
Okay.
So yeah, Sergeant Rich, he's a good guy, and he's in a tough position, I believe, and we'll leave it at that. We're thinking of world peace because we're seeing a lot of world violence going on, and that don't just mean over wherever, Mideast and wherever. Going to the wrong car. But that means in our own backyards, our own cities, our own parks. A lot of violence in the USA these days, and I'm all for the peaceful resolutions. So world peace, and ribbit, y'all take care of yourselves. This is the police report from the Delhi Senior Center incident, where I believe my rights were violated, where I was had really no problems in friendly interactions until I started making complaints about the township administrator and other Delhi vehicles parking in handicap without a handicap sticker. Then all of a sudden there were multiple problems with me. So, and then also I began to protest that, when the response from that was, in essence, we're not going to do anything about it. So this is a police report from that. I put it into the AI, and AI didn't have a favorable view of this, and that's going to come out in the discussion I have with Lieutenant Rich. So I want to point out a couple things. The report type is non-offensive. If it was non-offensive, then under what legal pretense did they use to kick me off of public property when I'm exercising freedom of press, freedom of speech, freedom to voice my grievance, freedom of religion, and freedom of press? If it was non-offensive, and what AI tells me is they put these in here, like Delhi seems like the crime's getting worse to me, just my experience, just feels that way. Things I run into, things like that, things I'm hearing, but yet not too long ago, the township's reporting that crime went down 18%, I think, in a year. Well, how does that happen? Multiple ways, a lot of different ways, really. But it could be that crime's going down, or it could be that enforcement is going down. In other words, the crimes are still there, but we're listing them as non-offensive. Somebody's doing meth in the park, we let them off with a warning, non-offensive. Or we don't even make a police report. That's one way that crime can come down. Is that happening in Delhi? I don't know. But what is this police report telling me? That they threaten me with arrest for something they're reporting as non-offensive. And you won't see the threat of arrest, leave property or threat of arrest. Am I being good? If I don't leave, I'm going to be arrested. Yes, Here's what they put in the public narrative. Complainant wanted information on why a couple of township trucks were parked in the handicapped spots. Complainant was advised that the lot was closed and only used by the public to get rid of materials that were accepted in the dumpsters. Complainant was finally told to leave since he was giving everyone the middle finger and upsetting citizens with his behavior. Complainant was advised to go to the public sidewalk if he wanted to express himself, and for his safety, with all the equipment being used. Doesn't say anything about any witnesses. Doesn't have any of my witness testimony in there, for example. When he said that the lot was closed, which he did say at one point, I was told it was closed to the public. And I pointed to all the cars in the lot and I said, isn't this the public? And he said, oh yeah, so this is a very misleading, and I'll let you see what AI says about it later. Other than that, you can see I'm listed as a complainant. There are no other complainants here listed. I wasn't the complainant that day. I was the one who had threat of violence, threat of being thrown in a torture cage, or what's propagandized as a jail or prison, threat of hands-on, whatever level of force is necessary in order to get their compliance. I should be listed here as a victim. Traffic complaint? So I guess at this point they're focusing on, they're not talking about rights violations or public disturbance or, this whole police report is typical BS put together by a sergeant. This isn't a first-year cadet. This isn't a brand new officer learning Delhi's policies and procedures. This is a sergeant that's a leader to the frontline police that's putting out an example of this is trash. This police report, let's be honest, this is trash. And in my opinion, something as trashy as this ought to have accountability. Ought to be more than a personnel issue. Trash like this ought to be a criminal ORC offense. That's my opinion. Lives are affected by trash like this. Doesn't mention anything about how I had to try to calm him down, how aggressive he was, how he's having a bad day. Nothing that points out the things that I would want pointed out as a firsthand witness to what happened that day, that I witnessed to him as a witness that day. Nothing about how I went to the sidewalk on the property, thus eliminating all safety concerns, or at least 99% of them. And he still threatened me with violence to get me off the property. So it wasn't about safety. Safety aside, which was proven by that act, still under threat of arrest. And I'd say it'd have been an unjust arrest. So threat of violence. Violence is unjust force. None of that listed in here. And if I want to start getting body cams, $75 an hour for body cam video. But folks, I'm looking at putting it together. I'm looking at getting some of those videos. I've given Delhi PD, I've given Delhi Township 2 easy outs. And easy out, I mean easy out. The only way that I can currently think that they wouldn't want to settle with one of the 2 easy out options I gave them is if it somehow benefits them, like lawyer gets money as soon as I file a lawsuit. All of a sudden he's getting what, $285 an hour to respond to it, analyze it, yada, yada, yada. One option I put out there was for the all body cam footage for free. That's as nice as it gets. They violate my rights and all they got to do is provide me the body cam for free. Now, what I did is I felt a little bit of, what do they call that, buyer's remorse. I mean, this isn't a purchase, but, you know, I felt a little remorse about giving them such an easy out, 2 easy outs to choose from, that I put a quick deadline on it. And I think that deadline's tomorrow. It's off the shelf, meaning if they accept it, I don't have to accept what they're saying they're accepted, because the offer will no longer be available. Thanks for watching. Peace.